In the last two sessions we looked at ways in which sentences can become complex through embedding. We also noticed that embedding is potentially infinite because the rules that allow for embedding are recursive. You can use them more than once. We also found that there are heads of phrase that require an embedded constituent after them as their complement. There are verbs that require to have objects. There are other verbs that are required to have two objects. And so heads of phrase belong to subcategories on the basis of the constituents that they require to have embedded within their kind of phrase. We now turn to the second way in which we can make infinite use of finite means, and that is through coordination. In all languages, coordination is possible, and what happens in coordination is if you're an NP, you can have an other NP added to you, and that means essentially that any syntactic constituent may be coordinated with constituents of the same category. So verb phrases can be coordinated with verb phrases, adjective phrases with adjective phrases, and so forth. There are three main coordinating conjunctions: and, or, and nor. Their meanings are very simple. And basically says take the bits that have and between them and add them together, so that now the set that we're talking about contains both or more, depending on how many things are coordinated. If you take birds and bees, then the set now has both birds and bees in it. But if we put or in between and say birds or bees, then we're allowed one or the other, but not both. And if we use nor, then we get neither birds nor bees, and the set contains nothing at all. Occasionally, the same functions may be coordinated. For example, if we take a sentence like, they seemed honest and in trouble, then honest is an adjective phrase and in trouble is a prepositional phrase, but if you remember back, they're both intensive complements. And so yes, they do share something. They may not share their structure, but they do share their function. That's relatively rare, but it needs to be pointed out. How do we graph them? Well, very simply. Melissa and Jean. Melissa is an NP and Jean is an NP because they're both nouns. The coordinator goes in between and we draw another NP on top. Why should we do that? Well, one of the nice bits of evidence for this is that if we put Melissa and Jean in a sentence as a coordinated structure, then if a pronoun comes along later, the pronoun is they. What is the antecedent of they? Well, it's not Melissa and it's not Jean, it's the two of them together. And the two of them together are dominated by the top noun phrase. So we need that top noun phrase because it provides an antecedent for pronouns. So basically what you do is you just add a node with the same label above the two coordinated structures. What do we do with the two functions that we had, the two intensive complements on the previous slide? I'm not sure, and there's a lot of problems about that. I don't know what you call something when you put an adjective phrase and a prepositional phrase together. Just to illustrate, and partly in order to see what you can remember, what sorts of phrases are being coordinated? The man and the boy. Well, those are noun phrases. The man, the boy, two noun phrases are coordinated. The singer sang at the concert and in the shower. Those are prepositional phrases, at the concert and in the shower. Gertrude whistled at boys and patted dogs. Those are verb phrases, lexical verb plus whatever comes after it. Melissa ate chicken and Angela talked turkey. Well, those are both clauses. Both have a subject and a predicate. Henry and Alfred, well, they're noun phrases. Walked, talked, and fought in the park, those are verb phrases. So you can get more than one unit coordinated in the same sentence. There's a nice little sidelight in the case of coordination that has to do with the meaning. We looked at the rough and ready kind of meanings of and or and nor previously, but sometimes it looks as though there's more going on. We're suggesting that coordinating conjunctions have very simple basic meanings, the sort of thing you learn in set theory when you're at elementary school. But in context, these meanings may be augmented. There may be more to it than first meets the eye. Let's suppose that we have been in trouble with our car, and the traffic officer stops beside us, and he sees that we're okay, and we say to him, "Yes, I'm fine, officer. I crashed the car and drank too much." What do we assume? Well, we assume that the crashing of the car took place first, and then the drinking too much happened later. You were very sorry about smashing up your car and you had too much to drink, and that's why you smell of alcohol. I drank too much and crashed the car. Well, here we think that it's the other way around, that the drinking happened first, and somehow the drinking caused the crashing of the car. Well, that can't be the case in the first one. Why is this? Well, the meaning of an utterance, when you actually say it, is not just the meaning of the code. We're used to having sentences encode meaning. But the code is interpreted in context. The traffic officer doesn't think much of your first excuse that you crashed the car and then had a drink, but the traffic officer thinks it was the other way around. And this capacity for coordinators to be augmented in context shows that pragmatics plays a role. Pragmatics, you remember, is the way in which utterances are interpreted in context and get, if you like, a little bit of extra meaning. Well, let's have a look at a bit of text again. We haven't looked at text for a little while. This is a piece from a short story, short novel really, by John Steinbeck, and it shows the author making use of a lot of coordination. Curly's wife lay with a half covering of yellow hay, and the meanness and the plannings and the discontent and the ache for attention were all gone from her face. She was very pretty and simple, and her face was sweet and young. Look at all those coordinators. Well, Of Mice and Men is about two rather simple country people, and this is the sort of way in which children tell stories. They use and a lot to coordinate all sorts of things, mainly clauses. Well, Steinbeck gives this impression of the simplicity of the person who's telling the story by using lots and lots of ands in just the way that a child would. Well, let's finish off this section by just recapping again, as we do from time to time, and think about sentences in general. Let's think of a major sentence as a sentence that has everything in it. It's a fully paid up, totally grammatical sentence, and no bits have been left out in context. Whereas a minor sentence contains left out bits. Well, it doesn't contain them because they've been left out. They're missing but essential. For example, we'll find out later that the answers to questions are often minor sentences. They're complete in and of themselves. They're what the person wanted to say, but they leave things out that you can fill in from context. So they're complete in the sense that the speaker has finished what he or she intended to say. They weren't interrupted. They didn't change their mind halfway through. A sentence can be a major sentence and complete. It can also be a minor sentence and complete. If you're transcribing speech, in particular, you often find that there are incomplete sentences. Incomplete sentences are interrupted or unfinished. It's not unusual for us to start out trying to say one sentence and then thinking halfway through, no, that isn't the sentence I wanted to say, stopping, not completing it, and going on and completing another sentence. I mention these kinds of sentences because we've basically been looking all the time at major complete sentences. That's what grammar generally deals with. But when we're speaking, we also produce incomplete and minor sentences, and so it's useful to remember that those exist as well.